All right, Shalom, everybody. How we doing? Now, hope you're doing good. Happy Sunday. It's not Sunday when you watch this. Hope you're having a good day. But recently, I found a gold mine. It's been here. It's been there forever. It's been pretty much used gold mine. But a lot of people that study this type of information and study information in general use this website to expose and prove and get accurate points of history. Now, the page I'm talking about, or the website I'm talking about, is called Internet Archive. They're called the Wayback Machine. And what you can do is you can go in there and you can type up any book, you can type up any year, and it will give you dictionaries, it will give you prints, it will give you manuscripts of all types from all the way back until the 1400. It goes back and back and back. Now, a lot of these are revised. A lot of them, a lot of the books that they, in the archives that they pull from, which are the Smithsonian, Vatican, these colleges, they don't show you everything. There's a lot of books that they say they don't have that they do, that they're just never going to show you. A lot of books have been revised and have had things taken out and switched. And you can catch them because we'll get to that later. I'm just telling you where I'm pulling from. So if you love knowledge, if you love history, if you want to get a proper index and a proper view of what the West Indies were like we're going to do today when we get into the West Indies, let's say in the 1700s, or if you want to figure out what Africa was like and what things were going on in Africa in the 1700s or 1800s, go to this and look up. Just type in Africa and put in 1800s after. Put in 1700s, and you will get books. You will get archived books from these times that will tell you straight out of the horse's mouth, hey, this is what we were doing over here in this time. And like I said, you will see it. It will say revised, second edition. That means that they have gone in there and pulled stuff out. They have gone in there and pulled out truths. They have gone in there and pulled out information that tells on them. They have gone and they've pulled out stuff that pretty much screws them over and ruins a lot of narratives that they push nowadays. So, but there's still so much proof that they leave in there. There's still a lot of things that they tell on themselves with, and there's a lot of shit that they've just let in there that there's just too much information to just go through and just to screen and get rid of, and to blotch this out, and to take this sentence out, and to hide the identity and the identity of this person, or the description of this person or this general and stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff they left in there, and they know that most people won't look this stuff up ever. So today we're going to get into Voodoo. We're going to get into Voodoo. We're going to get into Hoodoo. We're going to get into mysticism, the West Indies, and the description of the West Indies. If I have time, I'll go back up to the top of the list of screenshots I have. But I really wanted to just get into a lot of this stuff about the voodoo that I was reading about. And this is from a book called, you should all check this out. It is by Robert T. Hill, Cuba and Puerto Rico with the other islands of the West Indies. Now, this book was written in 1858 and published in 1858 originally, but they took it off the shelves and they revised it and they made a second edition in 1941. And when they take it off the shelves and revise it and put it back, that means they've taken things out of there that, like I told you, damns them and describes a little too much that they would like the public to be knowing. And then most of these things are the West Indies and all these other nations that are books that describe what's going on in certain nations at the times of the 1700s. And the end of the slave trade or the middle of the slave trade. It goes into great detail about who's ruling, about who's who, about the description of the natives, which a lot of people in South America want hidden because they're now there and they're claiming that they're natives. We have people that are posing worldwide and they have hidden and they've changed history. But as I said, today we're going to get into Voodoo. We're going to get into Hoodoo. We're going to get into Voodoo. We're going to get into Obi-Men. We're going to get into Conjure-Men, and we're going to figure out what Robert Hill talks about and goes into great detail about the West Indies and about America in general. He even goes into the American South and talks about this stuff and relates it to the stuff found over there about their spiritual and their mysticism. Okay, now we're going to jump up to here. Okay, concerning the charge of superstition Concerning the charge of superstition, it is true that both blacks and whites of the West Indies are saturated with it. He's talking about witchcraft, but not to the degree that has been alleged. Every book in the West Indian travel tells of this subject, picturing the terrible doings of the Obi men, their influence over ignorant peasants, and the deadly fear they create among white planters. Some even go as far as to tell the horrible cannibalistic sacrifices and orgies which defy the most vivid imagination to describe. One who reads St. John's book, Haiti, or the Dominican or the Black Republic, will be filled with horror at the tales of cannibalism and savagery it recounts, and shudder at the thought of such deeds even within a gunshot of our country. Yet it is my claim, borne by the testimony of others, that the writer of this book has committed the common mistake of adding actual facts of the African Obi rites, the imaginary French witch lore, to the imaginary French witch lore known as Voodoo. So this guy's saying that you have authors and you have Caucasians out here who are lying on the people of the West Indies, and even lying most likely about the people of Africa, making up extravagant stories to help justify the fact of what they're doing in their takeovers of these areas. It makes it a little bit easier to see them get taken over if you're saying, oh, they're eating people alive and they're doing these wicked, nasty witchcraft things and they're summoning demons on us and they're conjuring spirits to kill us and stuff like that. So let's keep on reading what he has to say, and about the whole lie about cannibalism, because we know they've said that about the Indians and the natives of South America. Pretty much everywhere they go, you hear them saying these guys are evil and they're going to eat you alive. And let's hear what this guy has to say about it. In opposition to St. John's charges, Mr. Bassett, the Haitian Consul General, wrote, "I have lived in Haiti as a United States minister for 9 years, and there is just as much cannibalism there as there is in the city of New Haven." Wow. A doctor of divinity, a native West Indian, wrote, "From my own knowledge, I can testify that the voodoo worship and the snake dances are practiced in Haiti, but cannibalism, I am sure, is not a custom of the Haitians." So again, we're getting rid of some lies here that are being told about the Haitians and about the people of the West Indies. And the most likely, I think it's safe to say that we can assume that they're lying about a lot of the other native tribes that they've run across and try to justify their actions against by saying they're wicked and they're practicing all this crazy stuff. Mr. Whitten, the first minister of the United States to Haiti, believed that these reports were based on popular rumor, sometimes originating in private malice, and was the opinion that if the true were ascertained, there would be found no more cannibalism in Haiti than Jamaica. Most of the West Indian Negroes, only a few generations removed from savagery, undoubtedly believe in witchcraft and practice it too, as I shall describe. But the most absurd feature is that of the native whites. There's no such thing as a native white. While not practicing it, believe in its own power and exaggerate its actual performances by attributing. So pretty much they're scared shitless of this type of stuff, he's saying. And just even the talks of it, just even the senses of it and the rumors of it gets them scared shitless and has them up in arms. While not practicing it, believe in its power and exaggerate its actual performances by attributing it to the absurd doings which their Gallic or Gauls, the Gauls are Gallic people, or Saxon forefathers believed in 2,000 years ago. I've taken great pains to study this particular subject in both the United States and the West Indies. All right, let's get into this. Let's see what Robert Hill has to say about the traditions of the West Indies and about what the natives and the black Negroes down there are doing with this voodoo. And he goes into some very cool accounts and very cool stories going both into, as he says, the United States and West Indies. Let's read this part. Let's read the top of this part. Then we're going to skip down and read some stories. Nearly all races of mankind in primitive ages have believed in witchcraft. That is, that certain persons have dealings and influences with evil spirits whereby they can obtain the power to work spells for good or evil upon other people and their belongings. This is not a religion at all. It contains no moral or contemplative conception, but is merely a sanction of savage fear and revenge. Okay. Now, let's go down to what he says right here. African witchcraft goes under many names. So he's attributing all black people to Africa, which is a lie. The out of Africa theory has been completely thrown out the window. It dodged a hijack on that. So African witchcraft goes under many names. In the English colonies, it is known as Obism. In Haiti, in the French colonies, is known as Vaudouism or Voodooism. In Louisiana, it is known as Voodooism, and in other southern states of the English settlement as conjure or conjure. You're conjuring something up, so they call it conjure. That sounds like a French. Its reflection in the northern states is called hoodoo. So up north and in the North Americas is called hoodoo. Furthermore, obiism and conjure on one hand and vadu and voodoo on the other hand are two distinct concepts. Now, let's go down to some stories. I don't want to make this video too long. I'm going to be putting up the text and putting up the images of all this stuff from the book. And like I said, I will link this. I will link the book in the description so you can go read it yourself. And I advise you to read many other books on this website and look up anything to your heart's content. If you have any interest in any lands, if you feel like you're being lied to by somebody about something about this historical event, use this website to look up. Just type in the name and they'll come up with a book for you. The first and chief factor of this savage belief is a witch doctor or Obi man, the voodoo doctor of Louisiana and the conjure doctor of the South. His power lies in the influence of his presence upon simple-minded folk and the faith he creates and his potency of his charms and actions. He's usually a venerable man of hideous mien who goes about pretending to practice spells and charms and selling a few simple herb remedies. He is undoubtedly a survival of the medicine man found in every tribe in Africa and exercises a great power for good or evil through his hypnotic powers. Okay, he may or may not possess knowledge of few simple vegetable poisons as alleged. So that's alchemy. That's mixing things together. That's what alchemy is. It's transmuting one thing into another. So we're going to keep on going down. And we're going to see some more stories we have. Let's see. The Negroes believe that not only the spirit, but the person of the dead in a modified form returns to trouble the living. These more nearly correspond to the shades of the ancient Greeks, having body and substance, than to our conception of spirits which are without them. These shades are known in Jamaica as dupies and Martinique as zombie. So that's where the term zombie came from, the returning of the dead or the conjuring of the dead, and in Antigua and Barbados as jumbies. So zombie and jumbies. These are again stolen terms or terms that have been brought into English lore. And you think, who created the zombie? Who created the stories of the zombie? Who created this? Well, there you go. And we're going to get into some other things too that show where a lot of this witchcraft stuff originated from. And we're going to see, and we're going to question who was really being killed in the Salem witch trials. Was it little white women, or was it black females who were practicing herbal remedies and other things, as we're going to read in these stories? So, let's see. We can read about duppies, but that's not that interesting. I wanted to get to some other things. Okay, where are the actual accounts? All right, it goes into talking about how they offer blood sacrifices rarely, and about how there's certain trees that they don't want to touch, and there's certain trees that can break the curses, and just like you can cast a curse, you can use certain things to break curses. Let's see. Sometimes the evil one is present in the person of a harmless serpent, as in West Africa and in Haiti, where a large native snake takes the place of an African reptile. Again, he's attributing the Haitians to Africa, saying that they originated from Africa. Among other people, as in Jamaica and the United States, the propagation of the snake as such has been abandoned. But all of the reptilian tribe is shunned with horror and regarded as influential for evil. Powerful Obi, even in Louisiana, snakes are said to enter still into the ceremonies of the Obi men. Okay, now I want to go down to the talismans and the spells that they use and the different types of things. Okay, so this is another interesting thing right here. Such as the worst obeism of the West Indian blacks, which may survive only in Haiti. So again, he's talking about the Haitis. He's saying that the Haitians are the strongest of this magic. When it comes to this magic, the Haitis have the strongest magic of this obeism. If even there, which in a modified form can be found everywhere in our country, and which is in no matter markedly different from the tales of witchcraft which one cannot escape if he visits Salem, Massachusetts. So he's saying the same witchcraft that you find down in Haiti is the same witchcraft that was going on in Salem, Massachusetts. Wow. There can be no doubt that the African obeism survives in some new form, whether the African race is in existence, just as the Germans and the English believe in elves, gnomes, and fairies. So he's pretty much just equating, again, the different black people from all over the world practicing a spiritual belief that's somewhat similar, but with different names. All right. Let's go to the stories about where we can read about like the rabbit's foot and about the other stories where he actually brings up accounts of what happens. Okay, here's a story about the conjurer. Her reputation on the northerly slopes of Beacon Hill fully equals that which is the most fashionable physician has acquired on the southerly side of the same immense. In 1897, within a few weeks after my return from the West Indies, where I had made various observations upon obeism, I clipped from the daily papers of the Washington City 3 notices of Voodoo doctors and their doings. One of them been arrested for illegal practices of medicine in the city. Another of much celebrity had died, and a third had been guilty of some trifling misdemeanor which attracted public attention. So again, who was the ones being killed in the Salem witch trial? Right here, this dude literally is clipping newspapers out in 1897, testifying to accounts of voodooism around the United States. I can recall vividly to this day the scene I witnessed as a boy upon a farm within 4 miles of Nashville, Tennessee. Now he's talking about account of voodooism or voodooism in Tennessee, when a great commotion occurred among the former slaves in the quarters then still occupied by them. There was a loud chattering of African voices from the cabins that the proprietor of the place proceeded to ascertain the cause. An old and trusted female servant who was afflicted with scrollific sores upon one of her arms was denouncing a certain Negro, who said that she had employed an aged and toothless old man, then standing in the center of the crowd to cast his spell upon her. And as proof of her assertions, she produced a small bottle which she had dug up from the path before her cabin door, containing a few horsehairs and reptile claws, which she said had made the snakes grow in her arm. Wow. The papers of the South frequently mention the doings of the conjure doctors. The Atlanta Constitution of November 1885 stated that perhaps 100 old men and women practiced voodooism in that city, telling fortuners, pointing out that the whereabouts of the lost and stolen goods, furnishing love philters, and casting spells upon people and cattle. They belong to all ranks and classes of Negro. Wait, I thought all Negroes were slaves beyond 1800s. Again, read these books. They tell on themselves. Why would there be different classes of Negroes? Okay, let's keep on going. The American conjure doctors, like those of the West Indies, carry bags to hold their charms consisting of lizard claws, dried rats, human bones, and other gruesome. Hold on, where am I here? And other gruesome objects. So here we see that I want to find the rabbit tail, or the one about the rabbit foot. The Selma, Alabama Times of 1884 describes one of the bags picked up in a broad street of the city, which contained a rabbit's foot, a piece of dried coon root, some other root, and particles of parched tobacco. The rabbit's foot perhaps possesses more powers of sorcery than any other instrument. So the rabbit foot comes from voodoo, and the legend of the rabbit foot comes from the Haitian voodoo. Come correct when you talk about them Haitians, boy. Come correct, okay? Possesses more power of sorcery than any other instrument among the black doctors of the South. Again, the Haitians are being told that they're the strongest ones, being an especial charm against evil, particularly if it is the left hind foot from an animal caught in a country graveyard on a cloudy night in the new of the moon. They're saying that is the most powerful. That's how you get the spell to work, the rabbit foot to work. Now get this about the rabbit foot. The rabbit's foot of late years has pervaded white society. Baseball players and sporting men generally carry one, and mounted in silver, they are displayed in shops of our great cities. Even statesmen can be seen wearing these as watch charms in Washington. The Philadelphia Evening Telegram of August 7th, 1884 noted that the left hind foot of a graveyard rabbit had been presented to Grover Cleveland as a talisman in the campaign. So if statements, baseball players, and other people are carrying these things, don't you think that this might have some power? Especially because it said before that white people are terrified of this, and they make theories up about this, and they usually use these things to come against the Negro. But here they're saying it seems like they've stolen something. They found something that actually works, and works in a good way. The Voodooism of French colonies is something different from Obeism. It is Obeism which has been magnified by attributing it to the imaginary doings of the French Voodoos, the supposed cannibalistic witches whom every French peasant, white or black, thoroughly believes in. The superstition of the terrible doings of the Vaudoos is as firmly embedded in the folklore of the French peasant mind as our belief in the rotation of the earth. And the word contains a strong moral reproach. That's interesting that he says the rotation of the... Why would... Okay. Oh, wow. And it is a strange coincidence that the Vaudoos of the 15th century were accused of all the horrible things which today are attributed to the Haitian Negroes, such as cannibalism, especially the sacrificing. So pretty much what he's telling you is anybody that has any type of power. That's why today magic is known as legendary. That's why magic and spiritualism is looked at like, oh, it's not real. It's not real. They've put that out there because these people that are in charge of us cannot obtain this stuff. They cannot do it. They don't have the magic. They don't have the abilities to do this or access this. So therefore, they have to cut belief off of it. It's no longer true. And if we see you doing it, you get arrested for it, as we heard of the accounts above. So again, so what happens when all of a sudden you find somebody that's able to heal people through means you don't know, that are able to conjure spirits that you are terrified of, that are real, are able to use talismans for luck and love potions. You don't have access to that, so therefore you have to cut it off at the root. He's evil. He's a demon, as Christians would say. He's practicing witchcraft. He's practicing witchcraft. This is witchcraft. You stop it, because another person's God, another person's spiritual power has surpassed yours. So therefore, you cannot make any money off of people. Therefore, you cannot make any money off of your fake gods, off of your fake churches. So this is why they demonize anybody that knows any form of magic and calls them wicked or calls them demonic. Now, I read a lot of stuff here, and this is pretty much the end of what I got. And don't worry, I got a lot more books we're going to go to. We're going to be going through the Druid. We're going to be going through the Druid magic and connecting them with the Brahmins, the sons of Abraham, or the descendants of Abraham. I got a lot of stuff. There's a poem I want to read about the slave trade written in the 1700s, and it goes into great detail, and it tells on white people about who they are and why they're doing this and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff that these books release. So all praises to the Most High. Study some more about Voodoo or spiritualism and about spirits and being able to obtain and use them. Hold on, let's read this end part right here. They were called a sect infernal and worthy of the hatred of all good Christians, and were bitterly persecuted, and the fierce members under torture were made to confess the practice of witchcraft and all horrible things. Furthermore, the word Voodoo, which meant a witch, or a witch is just a sorcerer. Like, oh, there it goes right here. It says a sorcerer. At the time, Voodoo was applied to an imaginary sect of witches, and the respectable Waldenses were regarded as guilty of all horrible crimes laid to the account of sorcerers. The word still survives in France, in the sanction of Vaud, and in the form of Vaudé, a sorcerer. Wow. So here you have it. I just wanted to read that. Big Judah, Big Levi, Abdul Asir, the two Haitian my two Haitian brothers, Abdul Asir, and Big Levi. You've been going into how voodoo needs to be looked at, and I live in Miami. My hairstylist, the girl I just got my hair braided by, she was a witch doctor. She was a voodoo witch doctor, and she screamed at me, "Josiah, I'm telling you, don't look into it. Don't look into it. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. You're going to go to hell. Believe in Jesus. Believe in Jesus. Believe in Jesus." But I'm actually doing my research about it, and I've been hearing that it's good. I've been hearing that's not necessarily that it's good, but can be used for good or bad. The practice of it itself is neutral. It's just the cause of what you use it for. That it's spiritual power. Spiritual powers are spiritual powers nonetheless. You can use it for good or bad. There's people that say there's no such thing as a good witch, but the term witch needs to be looked at entirely. And we need to see what we're really doing, and we need to examine these things that the Christian church, especially that the Christian Catholic Church, tells us are evil or wicked. We need to go through these things and look at them and examine them better. So with that being said, again, the book was called, let me get the title of the book for you. That's nice. I only got 25 minutes here. I was expecting to be over 30 by now. And this is from page 399, and it's called Race Problems in the West Indies. That's the title of the page. The book is called, again, Cuba and Puerto Rico with the Other Islands of the West Indies by Robert Hill, written in 1858, but it was revised. A lot of stuff was taken out from it. Like I told you what they do in the beginning, and it was republished in 1941. Republished in actually 1909, and then probably taken off again, and then revised again, and then put back into circulation in 1941. So again, look up the internet page called the Internet Archives and do your research on any book that you find interesting. So thank you, Shalom. I hope you found this cool. I hope you learned some stuff about Voodoo, Hoodoo, about Haitians, and how many of the tribes were lied about and told that they were cannibals, and how this white author right here pretty much tells you, no, I lived here for years, and these people do not practice this. This book goes into great details about this treatment of the Negro compared to the treatment of the Negro in the West Indies, compared to the treatment of the Negro in the United States in the South. It talks about how a black woman and a Negro woman in the West Indies can walk from one end of the island of Jamaica to the other without being touched, and actually having positive encounters, and everybody trying to help her and no harm coming to her. But he's like, that's not even close to what happens in the United States. A black woman can't walk to a near town, or can't walk through a town without getting lynched or without getting assaulted. And same for the black men. And the stereotypes that are propagated in Americas about the Negro there, and the stereotypes that are propagated about the lack of stereotypes that are propagated about the Negroes of the West Indies. So look up this book. It explains a lot. It goes into great detail.